welcome to Cobra Kai Never Dies. I'm your host, Lata.
I'm your other host, Nina.
And today, we watched the Karate Kid movie. So this isn't even an episode of Cobra Kai so much, but we went back to the source material.
We went back to 1984 where it all started.
That's right. So we could look at it with fresh eyes. The source text, the original document.
The Bible, the Bhagavad Gita.
This was a big moment for us.
It was. Were you prepared for what you saw?
I was amazed by how little I remembered of the Karate Kid.
I know shit about karate.
Because, I think the first time I saw it, it was in the 80s. I was quite young. And there are certain things I remember, but so much escaped me back then. I cannot believe you and I have been hosting a Cobra Kai podcast with so little actual knowledge of the Karate Kid.
My God. I mean,
I'm
2 hours ago, we were different people.
Yeah.
And now we have the backstory.
Oh my God, the shadings,
we can come at season 2 now with the proper context. Okay.
And I feel actually personally ashamed of us for recording an entire season with so little knowledge of the source material.
But I don't even feel like we would have been able to appreciate this movie without having gone through an entire season.
You're right.
I mean, there have been moments, listeners, when we were musing over what does this title mean, or what does this quote mean, or hey, that song seems familiar. And then when we watched it,
all the throwbacks came together.
Yeah. A newfound appreciation for the show.
I'd also like to say that it's interesting to watch The Karate Kid because essentially from watching Cobra Kai, you know the future of all these characters. And so it's really interesting to be like, hey there, I know you're mad now, but just wait and see what happens to that guy.
I feel like an oracle, like an all-knowing god.
Right? I always feel like that. But yeah, no, that
weird.
Especially so at this exact moment.
Okay. And also for most of the evening while we watched, we were discussing who among us was really a Miyagi and who was a Daniel. And I think we'll continue that discussion. It's an ongoing question.
We'll never stop having that discussion. That's always going to be a contentious matter for us.
Yes. So why don't we start where the movie starts? Newark, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Daniel and his mom are deciding to close the door on a chapter of their lives, the gritty Jersey chapter.
And drive cross country so that she can start a job and they can start a new life in California.
In computer startups, is that what it was?
Something like that.
Yeah, something super vague.
They were very, very cagey about it.
She said very little about computers, but it's fine. I like the mystery. So they get to the iconic apartment complex South Seas, which they debuted on season 1 of Cobra Kai. Still has used to have a shitty, non-existent pool.
I mean, now you see in present day, in Cobra Kai times, the pool now has water in it, but it's still kind of a dump. But yeah, you see it in all of its dumpy glory. Initial observations, just like, the LaRussos are really Italian.
Uncle Louie gets multiple shout-outs in like the first 5 minutes, which is very exciting because at some point Daniel had a lot of like affection, it seems, for Uncle Louie. And his cousin Louie probably was apparently named after this Uncle Louie. There's a lot going on. Louis in the LaRusso clan.
Indeed. But it just struck me that what they were getting at this movie, it's like Daniel and his family, they're Italian, and like, he's kind of got a bit of a Jersey accent, and then you see him like in contrast to like the many, many blondes in Southern California and stuff like that, and it's kind of like a class thing and a, like...
I don't know, there are so many blondes. I mean...
we're from California, like, it's not that blonde. There's a lot of...
You think those were just less diverse back then in the 80s? Like,
no, I don't think people realized...
Or was everyone just dyeing their hair blonde because that was the
maybe a little bit of standard. That. But also, like, movies in general never realize how many ethnics are in California.
Yeah, we just sort of, like, fade into the background.
I mean, we're being unfair. There's a big ethnic in a big role in this movie.
Sure.
Although, the Miyagi guys.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, but remember, so Daniel's mom, Lucille, at various points, she's like, notes all the various blondes and asks if Allie is blonde at some point.
Yeah. So, yeah. I kind of thought it was like like a little thing. Like you can see that Daniel's like slightly from a different world. How did you feel about Daniel in this movie in general?
I really liked him.
Yeah.
Just a really likable kid, and it makes me now seeing what he becomes in Cobra Kai makes me sad
seeing
because
what he becomes.
He's pretty endearing in this movie, and yeah, he is pure Jersey, a little rough around the edges, but you see like throughout the movie this movie has so much heart, and that Miyagi Daniel relationship, which I guess I didn't remember much of this movie, and so it was always kind of like a vague thing, a callback, and it didn't really resonate until I saw the movie again, and I was like, okay, I get it. They have a lot of seminal moments.
Right. And I want to say, and I know we're kind of jumping away from the chronological order that we usually do, but
we're throwing
let's
out
just
the
get our
script.
thoughts out as we get them out. I mean, so the thing is, with Miyagi, like, again, I had sort of forgotten this movie. I knew the vague outlines of it. So, I remembered certain moments from it. When you watch Cobra Kai and, like, Daniel references Mr. Miyagi, he always comes across as kind of like Mr. Miyagi was just like this wisdom machine who just like dropped bits of like knowledge about life and was very, almost like...
The personality of Miyagi doesn't come through.
Right, the personality of Miyagi, I had forgotten, is that he's like a total weirdo.
He's a goofball. He's multifaceted. I mean...
He likes to like, basically he likes to just like give Daniel shit.
He likes to
and
fuck
with
people.
him.
Yeah. He's complicated.
And he's hilarious, and like he has these moments where like, there's like great sadness at the heart of him because, as one of our listeners pointed out, he lost his wife and his unborn child because they were at an internment camp during World War II, and a doctor couldn't treat her during childbirth.
For all of the jokes we made.
Yeah, like where's Miyagi's son? Wait, do we know that the son died?
I may have speculated that he had other sons.
My God, you're terrible.
I know, I'm a
but
monster.
I think that, that moment where like Miyagi is like getting drunk and then toasting the memory of his dead wife and everything. You know something? Like I realize that the relationship between Miyagi and Daniel is echoed in the relationship between Miguel and Johnny Lawrence.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I thought.
And it's interesting that I was kind of like, why is that relationship? Why don't you feel that much for like Daniel LaRusso and his pupil Robbie? And it's like, it's almost because like Daniel, like in that role, is kind of like the wisdom machine that he portrays like Miyagi to be. Like he's just, there's never like moments where he gets drunk and confides in Robbie. Like, do you know what I mean? Like it's a little bit like more staid. Yeah. He's just very much like, Robbie, you got to learn balance. Balance is great. And like, yeah, Miyagi said that, but Miyagi also like pushed Daniel off of a boat for no reason,
Yeah,
he's like
and
a fun guy.
Yeah, exactly. This is as much Miyagi's movie as it is like about Daniel. In fact, more so. I think the last frame of the movie is on Miyagi's face, and it's very fitting. And it makes a lot of sense that Daniel kind of reveres him and remembers him and misses him so much. Without any of these like emotional moments. Do you want to just start getting into Miyagi?
Yeah.
So I love that and I not remembered this from the first time. The first time you meet him, he's kind of like the apartment maintenance guy and kind of lives out back.
No, I think he lives in that place with the cars, like on the other side of the tracks, right? Yeah, that's
okay. Okay, so why was he... Okay, so yeah, somebody gave Daniel the wrong directions to find a maintenance man. He finds Miyagi instead, and his opening scene is he's trying to catch a fly with chopsticks.
And like Daniel's asking him to come repair a faucet, and Miyagi is just like, whatevs. And so like he seems like kind of like a batty old man. And you know what? I like that he's always kind of that batty old man. He's just a batty old man who like has major skills in lots of areas.
Yeah. And what I really like about this movie is that within like 5 minutes, just with very little kind of said or done, you kind of get a sense of who Daniel is, and you do get a sense of who Miyagi is, like right away. Like Daniel is just very torn about being uprooted from his home in Jersey, which is like a very relatable feeling. And it's like you don't even need much more than that. It's like he's the new kid. Okay, we got it. And actually like it opens up the rest of the movie for more
stuff to happen. Yeah, it's like we get it. He's the new kid. He's like basically like he goes to. I'm sorry, now we're moving on to Daniel. Like I said, my head's all over the place, but. you know, when he goes to the beach with some guys, like he met at his apartment building, he meets Allie, or he sees Allie, and that's basically, actually, it's not because he's the new kid. It's entirely because of this meeting with Allie that he goes through hell after this. I'm not blaming Allie for it, I'm just saying that...
That kind of sounds like you are
blaming I'm not. Allie. I'm just saying, it was really rotten luck for Daniel that he had to meet Allie that day.
So, would you say that, like, we learned a lot about Allie, I think, from this movie. More than I had known previously. Allie's always been this ghost. And, you know, in the first season of Cobra Kai, like, both Daniel and Johnny kind of, like, remember her wistfully. I feel like she actually has a personality in this movie. And I think she's definitely leading the charge in her courtship with Daniel. Mm-hmm. Like, she's entirely... pursuing him.
She digs him right away, and like
it's refreshing. It's refreshing because of how fucking passive the women in Cobra Kai have been, and to go back fucking 30 years and see the only female character like making moves.
Yeah, and to be honest, like
pretty bold moves, I'd say.
Daniel doesn't need to win over Allie. Like she just likes him from the get-go.
Yeah,
which is like, again, good for Allie, but like, man, that was like probably the worst thing that ever happened to Daniel, because of course, like when he meets her at the beach and they hit it off, like her ex-boyfriend Johnny and his Cobra Kais come to the beach, and like, God, yeah, so he ends up like in a fight with them. I mean, obviously entirely their fault, but like, you know, from then on he's kind of like a marked man, and I really felt for Daniel, like, because he, you know, like when he gets beat up at the beach, his new friends are suddenly like, this guy's a loser, which is so just such an odd reaction.
Again,
like,
maybe a commentary on male friendship being.
I guess it's like somebody with like a black belt beats up your friend, and you're like, oh, fuck you then. But okay, fine.
It makes me sad.
Men, right? I mean, I personally would not hang out with you if you were beaten up by a karate master. But like, still, I was kind of shocked by that.
I know.
But and after that, it's just, you know, Allie really likes him and digs him and everything. But like, you actually see him like get beat and get pushed down a hill.
And it's really brutal. And I gotta say, the characterization of Johnny here is fairly one note and makes it really hard to kind of see things from, like, if you just saw this movie, like, Daniel is clearly the victim.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
of so much.
That's the thing. It's like, even when you love Johnny Lawrence in Cobra Kai, when he's retelling the story from his point of view, you're like, yeah, buddy, come on.
I mean, in the first 20 minutes, like, after the beach encounter, like, let's just do a quick rundown of what Johnny and his entire gang of, like, 15... There weren't just, like, 5. There was, like, more than that,
There's a lot of Cobra Kais, yeah. But, like, basically they give him that beatdown on the beach, which kind of starts when Johnny tries to take... Like, he wants to talk to Allie about their breakup, clearly, so he tries to take her radio from her, and then when she gets, like, mad at him, he breaks the radio, and it's just like...
He's a really scary ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like, what the fuck, dude?
Really intimidating.
Yeah, and then, of course, like, when Daniel's, like, just there, like, trying to, like, you know, basically give all these radio back to her, he, like, starts wailing on Daniel, and then, like, I think later on when Daniel, like, actually goes into the Cobra Kai dojo, because this is something I did not remember at all, he apparently, like, had, like, some karate lessons at the Y in Newark and stuff like that, so he really does want to learn. And, you know, when he sees, like, Johnny there and Johnny smirking at him, like, that's a bad moment for him, and he leaves. And, like, later on, the Cobra Kais, like, get him while he's biking home. They get on their little motorbikes or whatever they are,
and
like,
really
push him down a hill. It's
really actually scary, where it's like, oh, they're not just, like, teasing him. They're like, he could have died. Like, he could have broken his neck.
I mean, I think the most real and visceral moment of the movie is when Daniel gets home from being pushed down that hill, right? And he takes his bike and he's like, he throws it in the dumpster and he's like screaming and he's just really angry at his bike, at his stupid bike, and like, you know, all this other stuff like that's going on, like, and his mom forcing him to move, and, you know, all this resentment comes out. And to me, it was like such a real moment, because it's like,
yeah, he's just being a little teen,
right? And also it's just like, I felt for him because it's not just that he's hurt. he's embarrassed. Like, it's embarrassing for him that, like, he has to, like, he tries to hide that he's injured from his mom, and it's embarrassing that at school people know this guy's beating him up. And, like, later when he tries to hang out with Allie, and then he sees, like, Johnny, he's like, I better go, you know, and Allie's like, oh, well, we have to deal with him eventually. I was kind of like, you're not the one getting beat up,
Allie,
dude.
Are you taking these punches?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you are.
And Daniel's mom is, like, in classic mom mode, is like, fighting's not the answer, and it's just infuriating to me, because...
Right, because it's just...
Everything we've seen of this terrible town and this terrible high school full of, like, karate-trained bullies means, like, you kind of have to fight.
I mean...
You have to do something.
I think that... And
you were beating him up, like, every day.
Right. Well, was it every day? I think it was like
it would have been every... Yeah.
It was a couple times, then after that he was kind of hiding. And then the third time that he gets, like, an epic beatdown is... I'm going to say it. Like... Daniel has gotten to this point where, like, he's been able to avoid Cobra Kai. He goes to this Halloween party wearing a shower curtain, like a little outfit that Miyagi made for him. And Allie, like, still really is into him. And Allie's kind of like, want to meet me outside. And Daniel's like, yeah, no, totally, absolutely. And then he uses that time to, like, he sees, like, Johnny in a bathroom stall. And then he uses that time to, like, turn a shower head on him. And then, like, runs out laughing. And then all the Cobra Kais chase him and beat him up. And it's just like... Daniel, you, like, turned down, like, an opportunity to make out with a girl you're really into to do this?
I actually like that, because it's, like, kind of true to Daniel's character, in that he is kind of, like, impulsive and, like, a little quick to react, and as kind of consumed by vengeance, as we see Johnny is later in Cobra Kai. Like, yeah, it's never really about the girl, right? It's about this greater rivalry.
Which,
I think has more resonance for him. Like, that's where all that primal emotion comes
I guess so, but I was honestly like, you idiot. Like, they're going to beat you up.
It is true.
It will hurt a lot.
No.
And, like, of course, Miyagi ends up saving him from getting killed by these guys. I want to say... Like, there's one of the Cobra Kais, I think it is Bobby, or, yeah, right?
Jesus, and they gotta give these teens, like, more distinctive names.
Like, there's a Bobby and a Tommy.
They're all they all are, like, white with, like, bottle blonde, dirty blonde
feathered hair.
Feathered hair.
But Bobby, I think is the one who's, like, look, he's already down the ground, like, you're gonna kill him,
he appears
leave
to
him
have
alone.
some kind of conscience.
I actually think, and we have to look this up, we do see in Cobra Kai Season 2, like, what happened to all these guys when they grow up, and one of them becomes a priest, and I think it's Bobby. But, yeah, just a thought.
Yeah.
Overthinking this, maybe.
Yeah, it's weird, because did you recall the Cobra Kai gang being this kind of aggressive? To me, I was like, did everyone just take steroids? They all seemed like they were roughly 25 to 30.
Yeah.
And... it should be noted, everyone talks about this, Ralph Macchio looks ridiculously young in this movie.
Yeah.
He's like 23, but he looks like he's 13.
He does look like he's 14 or 13 or something.
And
so
Allie actually looks like her age, which is like 23, 24, which, I don't know.
I mean...
makes it a little weird.
There's a lot of things where it's just like, you know, the character Daniel is very endearing, but when Allie's really into him, and, like, one of her friends is like, I don't know what she sees in him, I was a little bit like, she does look like she's several, like, decades older than him.
Yeah,
so...
and I think it's entirely the 80s makeup and costuming. Like, everyone looks 45 at this high school party. I know they're supposed to be in their 20s, but I just don't get it. I don't get any of the hairstyles are so god-awful. It just... feathered hair just needs to die in a fire.
I want to mention at this point that, like, Nina is, like, the biggest devotee of the 80s.
I like the ethos of the 80s. But
the ethos is embodied in the hair. The hair is the ethos.
You don't understand the ethos. I'm Miyagi at this point. I'm imparting wisdom about what the 80s
don't understand
really
the 80s. My God, this is
you
just...
sound a little Daniel right now. Anyway, so should we go back to... God. Okay, so we learned so much about Miyagi. I want to talk about Miyagi.
All right, yeah.
So, yeah, Miyagi finds Daniel's bike and fixes it. And I think that kind of starts an actual friendship where, you know, it's just really touching. It's just a simple act of kindness. And Miyagi's like, no big deal, you know.
Yeah, and I like
very
also...
chill about it. And then he invites him to, like...
Yeah, Daniel comes to thank him, which... by the way, I like that. It's a nice touch. A lot of times in movies like this, like, they don't bother to make the protagonist actually seem like a good kid, but, like, Daniel's clearly a good kid. Like, he comes in and he thanks Miyagi, and then Miyagi invites him to come in and, like, help, like, trim his bonsai trees. And here's the thing, Daniel actually does it, and he seems to be enjoying it.
And he was going to be like, he told his mom, like, hey, I'll be down in like a half an hour. He was going to spend a half an hour pruning these trees if he hadn't had to go to bed or whatever.
And, like, then at the end, like, Miyagi gives his mom a bonsai tree, and then he gives Daniel a bonsai tree. And this is such a throwaway moment, but I loved it. Like, Daniel's like, Mom, did you see? He gave me the very best one. This guy's awesome. And I don't know, like, I was just like,
sweet.
You usually just don't see kids, like, do that. Usually they're like, it takes them a while to realize the old man's worth something. It actually makes him seem
more like a kid, because, I don't know, why did grandkids and grandparents get along so well? Like, they're both, I don't know, there's some sort of connection there. And then when you get, like, when you grow up a little bit and you get, like, some bravado and you're too cool to hang out with the olds.
Right.
Then, like, you get into Johnny territory where, like, yeah.
Or, like, honestly, like, that's, I think, what makes little Daniel seem more like Miguel, like, than Robbie. Because, like,
he's willing to hang out with just old people, and, like, he's nice to the crazy old woman that lives in the South Seas apartment complex.
I know, he's just, like, he's a nice kid who's sometimes driven to, like, you know, irrational outbursts, but, like, you get that. You understand that.
Yeah, he gets beat up a lot, and, like, I would have lost it a long time ago.
Right, and then, like, just more evidence that Daniel's, like, a really good kid. So when Miyagi's him, like, with the training methods and everything, the waxing of cars, the painting of fences, you know, everybody remembers that. Even I remembered that. But I didn't remember just how long Daniel did that shit before he finally was like, what?
Yeah.
And I had totally forgotten that, like, he's doing this, like, stuff for 4 days. He's painted every fence and waxed every car. And then and only then is he like, what the fuck? Like, Robbie was probably like, what the fuck after...
15 minutes into his car dealership internship, he's like, what gives?
Right. Why am I not a karate master yet? So I just like that.
Yeah. So, Miyagi lessons. I asked, so who initiated this relationship? I feel like at this point... it's a pretty mutual relationship. Although, I think Daniel is more invested, perhaps.
In the Miyagi-Daniel relationship?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think that once, like, Miyagi saves him from, like, the Cobra Kais after the Halloween dance, like, I mean, you get this... it's interesting, because it's, like, he's clearly very concerned about Daniel and, like, he's taking care of him and stuff like that. But, like, when... you know, like, there's a conversation they have about how, like, basically, like, the reason why the Cobra Kais are so bad is because their sensei is so bad, and it's making them bad. And, like, you know, Daniel, like, is like, well, you know, will you come with me to talk to that sensei? And, you know, Miyagi's like, no, I'm not really going to get involved here, right? Like, I was actually surprised by that. I was like, oh.
And that's why I was like, okay, so... Daniel kind of wears him down just by being endearing and there to hang out with him. And Miyagi's like a bachelor. Like, he's like been alone for several years now. He's got his cars, he's got his bonsais. He doesn't really need anybody else. But... and
Daniel, like, genuinely likes him before he even knows that Miyagi can do karate. Yeah. Like, he just comes over and trims the bonsais and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was a little bit like, really? You're not going to go with the kid? Come on, just go with the kid.
I know. It feels like, Daniel has to win him over a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like a normal relationship where it's like, you're right, why should Miyagi automatically care? Like, Miyagi's got his, like, he's like his own person.
Well, I mean, again, they are Johnny and Miguel. I realize
I know. Yeah, absolutely.
And then,
there's so many great Miyagi quotes. It's, like, almost impossible. We're going to have to do, like, a super cut
seriously.
Of all of them. We find out he's also a master pumpkin carver. He had all those pumpkins.
Is there anything that man can't do?
He encourages Daniel to, like, not just hang out with him, but, like, actually pursue something with Allie.
Yeah.
I love that, how Daniel is, like, that also makes him kind of a little kid where it's like, yeah, he likes Allie and thinks she's cute, better than that hag Judy that he referenced at his old high school or whatever. But he's also, like, genuinely wants to spend all his time with Miyagi, and Miyagi's like, the quote is, to make honey, young bee need young flower, not old prune. It kind of sounds like he's like, get busy with Allie. I can't give you what you need.
Right. That's what saves it from being a creepy relationship between a young boy and an old man.
Yeah, he's like, come on now. Maybe that's why he gave him the car. He's just like, geez.
Yeah, get out, Daniel.
Yeah.
He also is able to make Halloween costumes. He can do anything, really. He's the greatest guy.
And then a moment I found really cute is when we find out about Miyagi's backstory with his wife. He's drunk and singing the Japanese blues, and it's very affecting. And then he pours, sake,
probably.
Yeah, Daniel a drink, and they like toast a bonsai, and it's very, very sweet. And I was just thinking, like, yes, all of the kind of father-son moments that Daniel never had, he's having with Miyagi.
But I think that they're also like, they are father-son moments, but they're also like a little bit like, again, I think this is why they're like immediately brought to mind like Miguel and Johnny, because it's like, hey, you just poured liquor for a 15-year-old and you're crying in front of him.
He's not particularly invested in being a parent.
Right. It's not exactly like an idealized... Like, Daniel always makes it seem like they had this very idealized father-son relationship where, like, this... Miyagi was just this guy who only spoke in, like, wisdom. Whereas it's like, no, Miyagi's like... Yeah, he totally poured a glass of whiskey and had, like, a 15-year-old do a shot with him and stuff like that. You know?
In some ways, I don't know if they're planning on doing this, but in the flashbacks, I hope that they, like, flash back to times when Miyagi was just a fucking goofball and, like, does random things to screw with people. Like,
there's a lot of great moments there, and
all Miyagi knows are two things: fish and karate. Met his wife in a cane field, and
a sugar cane field.
Does
that help? I don't know.
At some point, when they do the kind of weird bonding activity with the chopsticks and the fly, Daniel actually manages to catch a fly.
So Miyagi has this thing that he says that a man who can catch a fly with the chopsticks can do anything, and he's never been able to catch one, but he's always trying. And then Daniel's like, "Can I try too?" And Miyagi's like, "You're welcome to try." Okay.
Yeah.
And then he catches one, and Miyagi's just like...
He's the best.
Beginner's luck.
He's the best. Okay, so I had written down this question. Which training exercise Miyagi's would you do if you only had to do one? Is it paint the fence, wax the car, sand the decks, and sub-question, what would you do just if you had to do one, and what would you do if you had to use one of the exercises to win the All Valley?
I would do wax on, wax off, because I think it just seems like the most fun of the training exercises.
Okay.
And if I just needed one that seemed like combat, it would be the paint the fence, because it seems like it translates better to combat than like sanding the floor. Like you're not even in the right position when you're sanding the floor.
That's
true. What about you? Same question.
I would say wax on, wax off for both. Would I? Yeah, because I feel like whoever's going to be in the All Valley is going to kick my ass. I'd better learn how to block.
Yeah, right. And then that's
all I care about.
So here's a question for you. Is this a question? Is it a comment? I don't know. But like, so when Miyagi is won over and he goes to talk to John Kreese and confront the Cobra Kais in their den or whatever you call snakes together,
lair,
in their lair. The solution that Miyagi happens upon is just basically like, you know what? Like, leave the kid alone and they can settle it in the tournament. Essentially he's kind of like, 5-on-1 is too much for anybody to handle. 1-on-1's okay. So you know what? Like, Daniel will like fight these guys 1-on-1 like at the tournament. And I thought that was like such a... And Kreese is like, okay, sure, yeah. Like,
Kreese is a nutcase, guys. In case, if the limited characterization that we get of Kreese...
Like, oh Kreese man, he has crazy eyes.
He's seen some shit in Nam or the Korean War. I mean...
One of the wars he's pretended to be in, yeah. And
there's no saving him or his character.
No, and like... But it is interesting that, like, basically, like, these guys are going to lay off of Daniel until the tournament.
It's very smart, and I think
Miyagi is very used to it just because Kreese is also like kind of like nutty, and it's just like, yeah man, I like that. It's pushy, but okay. And I thought it was just really interesting because it's like, everybody like has been saying like, oh, violence is never the answer, but Miyagi is like a little bit like I said, he's not the perfect role model because he's just like, come on, there's going to have to be some violence. We'll just
not just that. He knows that the only thing that the Cobra Kai bots will listen to is their sensei. So if their sensei says don't beat up on Daniel, then they'll listen to
that. And he also knows that like there's a really interesting thing where it's like when I was a kid, I think I thought that Daniel had to win the tournament to get them off his back, but like now, like actually watching it as an adult, I'm like, oh no, Miyagi explicitly says like it doesn't matter if you win it or lose it. It doesn't matter if you go down in the first round; they'll respect you.
Yeah,
which is like, oh, I actually didn't realize that. That's actually, I don't know. It makes me think of a lot of things like. Well, for instance, you know how we were shitting on Robbie for just showing up at the tournament?
For just being alive, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. But also, it's just like, yeah, man, he had no reason to enter that tournament. Like, Daniel was actually fighting for his life, but like...
Yeah, he knew that if he didn't do something at the end of the 2 months, like, Kreese would murder him.
Yeah.
Like, that, in that scene in the dojo, you believe it.
He was
Kreese will hunt them down.
Like, if you don't show for this duel,
dead meat.
It's going to be open season on you and the old man, you know? And it's just like... So he had to do something. And then, like, the other thing
no
that's...
stakes with Robbie. No.
Right, there's no stakes with him. He doesn't need to win. Although I will say, like, the ending, like, when Daniel, like, gets delivered, like, a pretty bad blow by Bobby, the Cobra Kai, who's secretly, like,
Bobby.
that bad. One of them. Like, and Bobby, sorry, yeah. And, like, when he's, like, in the locker room, kind of laid up with a bad leg, like, Miyagi tells him, like, you don't have to keep fighting. Like, you proved your point. And... he did. Like, he did not have to keep fighting. It's almost like that ending where that infamous ending where he's back in the ring against Johnny, like, that's kind of superfluous at that point. Like,
yeah, but I think that's the difference between Miyagi and Daniel. Like, Miyagi's got it all figured out. Miyagi, what was the great line about Miyagi doesn't fight for points, he fights for life or something?
Yes,
that's great.
And, like, yeah, that's great. And it's almost like, weirdly, as an adult, it cheapens the ending for me a little bit, because it's like, Daniel was fighting for his life until that point. Now he's just fighting for points.
You know what? And I think I read this somewhere, I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, but they had envisioned the Karate Kid to be a lot like Rocky after the success of the first movie. They were like, okay, we want a similar movie but with karate. And I think, I mean, Sylvester Stallone, like, wrote the first Rocky, I think all the Rockies, but, and he made Rocky lose in the first movie because Rocky, it wasn't about that. It was about, like, proving something to himself.
Right.
And that's what gave that movie the emotional resonance. Like, as you get through progressive sequels, like, it loses all heart, really.
Yeah,
it becomes very slick and commercialized and about...
It's about Rocky beating up the Russians, but it's like, yeah, at that moment, that was the point. That was Rocky's journey. Like, he was proving something to himself. So it's a little bit like, what is...
And I felt like if Danielson had learned the lesson that Miyagi wanted him to learn, he would have been okay with losing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, maybe he'd still want to, like, fight with an injured leg, but he'd be okay. Like, I think he should have lost. Like, also, if we can just skip ahead to that final fight scene. So we see Johnny in a couple of preliminary fights, and the dude is good at karate.
Yeah.
He's great. And then you see... And Daniel looks 14. He's scared shitless. He's injured.
He's not...
I mean, just...
that good at karate, I don't think... I mean, that's what Mr. Miyagi says. Which is...
Yeah, Miyagi has a great sense of realism where he's not even... He just wants Daniel to survive.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he always wanted. He, like, put up this... He made him enter the tournament... because he wanted to buy him 2 months free of beatings.
Right, and
hopefully...
he
just wants him to survive this match, so maybe they'll leave him alone.
Yeah, like, he understands that these guys will probably be, like, less likely to kick the shit out of him if they respect him as, like, a competitor, you know, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly what Miyagi wants, and it's like, so yeah, did Daniel need to win for this movie? I mean, I think the whole point of the movie, like, the emotional resonance of the movie is, like, Daniel forming this, like, incredible bond with Miyagi. Like, it's not winning the tournament.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of like, okay, sure. I don't know. Now that I think about it, it's like the ending, it's like, it's cool in a feel-good kind of way, but...
We should note that when Miyagi goes to enter Daniel into the All Valley or register him, they're like, what belt is he? Because you need to be a brown belt. And I love this about Miyagi. He's like, why do you need a belt? Like... You don't need belts in life. And
belts just hold up pants.
But then he realizes, okay, to get into the tournament, you need it. So he steals Daniel a black belt. And I just love that. It's like he's both idealistic and realistic at the same time.
That's what adult Daniel's kind of missing. Like, that sense of, like, I don't know, real politic or something like that. Or just, I don't know, like that, like, Miyagi's such a weirdo. Like, I wish they actually let Daniel be a little, like, weirder and less, like, on his high horse, you know, when he's an adult, I mean. Little Daniel is still pretty endearing.
I was just thinking, what is that Superman quote? Miyagi is not there when you want him, he's there when you need him. He'll give you the lessons you need to survive.
Yeah. No, and also the relationship between Daniel and Miyagi is it's more of an unlikely friendship, like this kid from Jersey and this old Japanese dude form a friendship, which is, again, kind of like the ethos of the Johnny and Miguel friendship. Yeah. Like the thing with Robbie and grown-up Daniel is like, oh wow, Robbie formed a friendship with this incredibly rich guy. Weird, crazy.
Miyagi, like, is kind of an eccentric old man, kind of getting drunk off sake by himself. Kind of like, but he's got a good heart, just like Johnny has a good heart and is essentially drinking Coors by himself at the beginning of Cobra Kai. And
that's way less alcoholic than liver Miyagi.
I know, I mean, holy shit. Should we get into a little bit of the Allie, Daniel, Johnny?
The love triangle.
I wouldn't even call it a love triangle.
It's not a love triangle, like, because, you're right, I like this,
it's like a love line with like a dotted hash mark off to where Johnny is standing. Like,
no, totally. And
they dated, so per Cobra Kai canon, we've learned that Johnny and Allie dated for 2 years and then broke up. Can you imagine Allie dating that guy for 2 years? Like current 1984 Johnny?
I don't understand. I mean,
what are they doing? Is he just smashing her radio and like destroying her things every time they get into an argument?
Right. Actually, the whole thing is baffling in the way that only like 80s movie relationships can be baffling, and it's a huge trope that like, oh, like the most popular girl in school, like, and her ex-boyfriend, like the big jerk jock, and like now this new sensitive guy is here and she's dating him and he's won her over, and I'm just kind of like, how could the same girl be into both of these guys at different times? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like,
my only explanation is it's high school and no one's personality is formed.
No
and
way. Like, there's no girl who would date like both like the sensitive nerd and also like the sociopathic jock.
Also, like, attention.
Those are different people.
If you're a listener who has dated both,
please write in and tell me what you were thinking.
Jock who destroys your stuff. And also a sensitive karate nerd.
And like a sensitive, like, loser. Like, he's, like, unpopular and stuff like that. And it's just, like...
Also, if he looks like Ralph Macchio, also
that really does help, actually.
I really think that's...
Fair. Okay. Never mind. I withdraw my question. But, yeah, no, it does make you think, like, if Allie's, like, she's like, really spunky and, like, great and clearly does not judge... Daniel for not having as much money and seems like a lovely person, then you're like, okay, but then you dated this guy who seems like a psycho for 2 years. So have you... What?
Yeah, he's not just like a bland rich guy. He's like an aggressive rich guy that has like a biker gang and is scary. And
it's kind of like, just drawing some parallels. It's like my problem with Samantha in Cobra Kai is that, like, if you're so nice, why are you, like, friends with these horrible bitches?
With the monster?
Right, and so it's like, Allie, like... If you're so great, what the fuck were you doing with this guy for 2 years? And, like, yeah, but I found that confusing. And maybe it's just because, like, also, like, the idea that they'd been dating for 2 years, like, I'm like, really? He's, like, that in love with her? Because, I don't know, like, just there's not tons of Johnny Lawrence screen time, so there's not, like...
Yeah.
There's not a lot of there in this movie.
Yeah, it also, there is a throwaway line where, like, Daniel has no idea what the rules of the All Valley are, which makes sense. Although he had two months to kind of figure out what the rules are to the All Valley tournament. But anyway, Allie, however, knows all about the All Valley because presumably she's been going to these
She probably went with Johnny, yeah.
That all checks out. Mm-hmm. But she also says, like, who isn't going to be at the All Valley?
Right.
Proving my earlier
whatever.
Points. All Valley is the only thing that matters in this town, okay? This town being
the
LA.
Town is Encino, and that just in that particular high school, all the cool guys do karate. Fine.
Anybody who's anybody.
This high school, not everywhere. I maintain that karate is not a widespread phenomenon in Los Angeles.
I am going to tweet at the show's creators incessantly until they answer me on this.
All right, we'll see. If they settle it, I'll accept it.
But a little bit more about I did want to note a little bit about Daniel. He initially wowed Allie with his soccer skills.
Yeah, who knew?
Whatever happened to that? I mean, he could have just as easily been like, you know what? Karate's oversaturated in the Valley. I'm going to do I'm going to do soccer instead.
Yeah,
he could have done that.
I think he's way better at soccer than he is at karate.
Allie says, "How do you juggle this thing?" I mean, her game is.
I mean,
shit. We
she
could
goes.
All take lessons.
She basically goes after him, is interested in him, like, makes pretty much all of the moves. She's great.
It's nice.
Which you're right, it's not a love triangle. Like, and I kind of liked it. It was refreshing. Daniel doesn't need to win her over. Like, she already likes him.
Yeah, she has super waspy parents.
Country club membership.
They live in Encino Hills, which again I think is really nice because you see. I love this about 80s movies is that they actually reference class in a way that you never see anymore. Where there's this real like wrong side of the tracks, and her parents are super stuck up.
Oh, and I love again like the way that they make you feel for Daniel is like, you know, he's not like wrong side of the tracks, like cool wrong side of the tracks. He's wrong side of the tracks as in like his mom picks him up on dates.
That was another great thing where he doesn't know how to drive, so of course his mom is going to pick him up, and of course they drive a shitty car, and it's just it has a sense of realism and
I think that it gets that like this stuff like, you know, getting beat up and like being poorer than your classmates. It's like what gets people about it isn't that like, oh, that sucks. It's that it's embarrassing. Like you can see it on his face that he's just like so embarrassed by it. But like he's like, what else is he gonna do but get out and push the car when it's not working? You know?
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if you noticed this, but so later Daniel and Allie have a very cute date at golf and stuff. They take photos in the photo booth. It's honestly got way more magic than anything Miguel and Sam had going on. Like this dating montage was just so cute.
It was cute.
But also later Daniel comes back. He's supposed to pick her up at the country club, and he sees kind of like a confusing picture where like Allie is dancing with Johnny, kind of under duress, and he kisses her, and he's like in the kitchen watching, and he gets the wrong idea, and then like, I don't know, falls to the floor and he has spaghetti all over him. But it's kind of like Miguel looking through the window and seeing Robbie eating dinner. Where it's like, it's pretty innocent, but it is that hints of class where it's like he's just like...
Right, he's in the kitchen looking at this tall blonde guy like macking on his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he is like kissing Allie, which, you know, I think he does actually because he sees Daniel and wants to fuck with him. Yeah. And then Allie punches him afterwards, which is fair. But like, yeah, you're right. Like there's like more class worked into this movie than like you usually see in, well, you're right.
Not just that, but I really appreciate that the Cobra Kai creators like worked really hard to like make these explicit references where they're like, it's an exact mirror to me now of Miguel and Johnny's relationship.
Yeah, no, it's actually perfect that way, where you're like...
different but same!
As you may recall, I don't know if anybody actually watches multiple episodes of this, but we, Different but Same is the name of like the 9th episode, the 8th episode in the Cobra Kai series, and we were racking our brains to figure out like which Miyagi quote that came from. And it's actually from Miyagi looking at a little picture of Daniel and Allie and saying, yeah, you look good together. Different, but same. Which is, I don't know.
I'm going to, next time someone asks me, like, what do you think of my boyfriend? Or, like, shows me a picture of a couple, that's what I'm going to say.
You're different but same.
Yeah, I confuse the hell out of people. I was going to ask, so there is a training montage, like a very, like, beautiful karate training montage. Which, again, it's like, because they build this beautiful relationship between Miyagi and Daniel, it has a lot of resonance when you see them, like, training at the beach and, like, him and Miyagi kind of goofing off a little bit. And when they do kind of a similar montage with Robbie in the woods, it's, like, completely divorced from that. Like, you feel nothing.
Yeah.
At least I
felt nothing.
Yeah. My favorite part of the Miyagi training is his like analogy about if you walk, you can either walk on the right side or walk on the left side, but if you walk in the middle, you'll get squished like a grape. Where it's like, stop being a wishy-washy fuck. Yeah. Commit to karate or get out.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a Cobra Kai lesson, too.
No, that's true. It's like a lot of Miyagi's lessons are not as touchy-feely as like people might remember. Like some of them are just kind of like, well, like, hope you don't die, you know.
Yeah, if you're that centrist, pick a side.
Yeah, pick a side.
Sorry. We are in DC. It's time to get political.
And, you know, like, Miyagi does have, like, I mean, he does say stuff about balance, and he does say karate is supposed to be, like, for defending yourself. Like, that's all true, but you're right. Like, he's, like, also a bit, like, he's tough, man. He has some Cobra Kai-ish lessons there.
Yeah.
He's like, you're my student. That means you don't question anything I say. That is the deal. And I was just like, Miyagi, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I really like that. And I do agree that I think what's missing from the Robbie-Daniel relationship is that, like, again, like, you see Miyagi be vulnerable. Like, it feels like more of an equal thing where it's like, they're friends. Like, they know each other. They know even, like, the darker things about each other, right? Whereas it's like, to Robbie, like, Daniel LaRusso is just this all-knowing, like, kind guy who's never done any wrong.
Perhaps at this point, it has very much been about Johnny's arc in Cobra Kai, which makes sense because, frankly, in the original movie, he gets, like, 2 scenes, and they're not very good. So, like, they have a lot of work to make up for.
At the end, he does look hesitant to sweep the
leg.
I
mean, everyone in Cobra Kai is joint in their horror of John Kreese. Yeah. Kreese is terrifying, and he's the one who initially tells... This is worth noting. He tells Bobby or Robbie or God knows what these names are.
I think his name is Bobby.
He tells some feathered blonde boy, sweep the leg. No,
not sweep the leg.
He says, put him out of commission.
And it's interesting because...
Which is a chilling phrase.
Right. And it's very interesting because it's like... This is towards the end of the tournament in like the semifinals where like Johnny has just defeated like his opponent and is going on to the finals. And then it's Bobby from Cobra Kai against Daniel LaRusso. So Bobby from Cobra Kai, when he's asked to put Daniel out of commission, is just like, I mean, what? I can beat this guy. I'll get disqualified if I do that. And like, you know, Kreese is like, this is what you're going to do. And it's like, basically, it's just like, well, you know, you're asking Bobby to throw away his chance at the tournament to like attack Daniel LaRusso. And he does so. And the first thing he does when Daniel goes down and is like clutching his leg is like, I'm so sorry, Daniel, I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
I was a little bit like, oh wow. Like in the very next scene, Bobby is like, somebody get a body bag. Like when Daniel's losing.
Think? Okay, my operating theory is that like Kreese is like kryptonite, where he like the closer you stand to him, he weakens your morals and your like sense of perspective. So you'll just like obey him, and then as soon as you get a little further away, you're like, "Oh no, what have I done?"
Yeah, like I mean,
the fog clears. You realize you've basically hurt a 14-year-old.
Yeah, I know he's a 14, and he looks like he's 14. It must be like really odd to be like, I think I crippled this kid.
Yeah,
and like you see with Johnny, like his moments of moral grayness are like when he looks so hesitant to sweep the leg, and also like at the very end. He's like, you're all right, LaRusso, but he also looks like he's crying, so that's a weird moment, too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, well...
You know what I think is... So do you feel like the Johnny they portray here kind of adds up to the character we see in Season 1 Cobra Kai? Or did they have to retcon a little bit?
I actually don't think they had to retcon too much. Like, he was this...
kind of a bastard. Like,
he was an asshole. And like I like that the show Cobra Kai, we love Johnny Lawrence. Like everybody knows that. But I like that Cobra Kai doesn't really shy away from the fact that like he was an asshole and is still like kind of an asshole, you know? Like
yeah, the one thing I don't know why this sticks out to me. I feel like the chasing him with the scene where they run him off the road, to me that's not something you can really come back and like reframe as just an innocent prank. That's like some Hell's Angel shit. Like beating someone up, okay, maybe you could say like I was a really aggressive teen with issues, but like to have a pack of your friends like pursue a child.
It doesn't help that
it's a really frail child.
And you know, actually like when they reference this in Cobra Kai, like Daniel's mom is like visiting his family and mentions that like those Cobra Kais, like they shoved Daniel down a hill, and little Anthony LaRusso is like, you said it was a cliff. It is a hill. I'm just gonna say it. I'm not trying to belittle it, but it's not.
Let me say, more harrowing things happen in the name of karate in future sequels of Karate.
It's true.
Kid.
I mean,
let me say there is a cliffside phase. No spoilies, but.
Yeah, Karate Kid 3, we'll get there.
Yeah, and it kicks it up a notch.
Yeah, so I'd say that, like, I get it. It was a shitty thing to do. I don't think it's quite, like, attempted murder.
Lata has run many a kid off the road.
I've run many a kid off the road, but they all had it coming. They were pussies. What do you want from me?
She has a sense of detachment about it.
Well, you know, who hasn't run a kid off the road once
You're right,
or two?
I am, Daniel.
No, I mean, you're right. He's like, I get what you're saying, because it's a dissonance thing to, like, watch Cobra Kai and, like, really feel, like, in Johnny's corner and then be like, oh, man, what a shit weasel.
I know. I wonder what happens to all of the other former Cobra Kais. You meet some of them in a future season, but I'm just wondering, there were so many of them, and I just wonder,
like... There's, like, only the 4 that, like, get to...
The main 4.
And you do see them in season 2 of Cobra Kai, like, which is nice. I want to say, like... It's odd to basically watch this movie and, like, you know what happens. So it's like you're looking at Daniel and he's, like, so mad at Johnny Lawrence. And you're like, don't worry. One day you will take this man's estranged son under your wing and make him so upset.
I know.
Like, what a weird thing to know. My God. So anyways, I recommend watching this movie after watching Cobra Kai's first season. I'm glad we did it just this way.
Also, a note about music, like, a lot of the musical cues, like, I was hearing it and I was like, you know, they did so well. Cruel Summer makes an appearance, the Bananarama version, all of the Foreigner songs, and it's great.
How do you like the music so much but dislike the hair so much? How do you reconcile that?
The hair is irredeemable. Okay, let's just talk about hair. It's hair talk now.
All right,
okay.
Thank you. I thought everybody had really great hair.
Okay.
And I don't even like the 80s like you do, but I was just like, man, there's so many lush heads of hair.
Only the men.
Yeah.
Okay, not even, no. I'm gonna get
I
a
meant
little
men
bit,
hair. Male
I'm gonna
hair.
get a little bit more specific here. Johnny Lawrence's hair, although I'm not a fan of blonde, he's got height. It's a great head of hair. Mm-hmm. Dan LaRusso, great head of hair.
Great head of hair, yeah.
I think it's tragic what they do to women's hair in this decade.
Yeah,
I don't know what
that's
the
fair.
fuck is happening.
It's just all frizz.
I don't even know how you feather it. I think it's intentional. Like,
no, I mean, you do this thing to hair that makes it look worse, but takes a lot of time and product.
Sure.
I think that's bizarre, but I was actually talking about not Allie's hair and all the female hair, but like the male hair. It's like so, I don't know, it's long.
Apart from Johnny and Daniel,
the 2 leads, their hair is amazing. And then like
the sub Cobra Kais have
shitty
feathered hair.
They all have great feathered hair.
No, it's a weird color. It's like not sure what it wants to be.
You mean blonde?
Dirty blonde.
It's a color that some people are in nature, you know.
I'm very sorry. I apologize to any
to the dirty blonde listeners.
It's a kind of dirty blonde that doesn't exist in this decade.
I
don't know what kind of godforsaken dye bottle they use, but
she's totally wrong about this. I think Cobra Kai has a stylist on staff, and
here we have
keeps
everything
them looking good. How about Kreese's hair? What did you think of Kreese's hair?
Kreese also has that awful feathered hair.
It's very feathered. Kreese also, like, his expressions are so fucking weird.
I feel like I'm staring at a serial killer.
But he also does this weird, like, pouting thing. Do you know what I mean? It's just
it's weird seeing people young. I don't know. So let's just do like a retrospective. Present day, 1984. Okay, who looks better currently? Johnny, Daniel, Kreese. Are we including Kreese? Okay.
I mean, I gotta say, and I don't want to like.
Okay, let's just keep it between Daniel and Johnny.
I don't want to sound like a perv, but like they look.
She's so perv.
Oh my God, I was actually like nervous about like thinking like, oh wow, Daniel's really attractive.
She made me look up his age, guys.
Well, I was worried that he might be like 16, and then I was like, well, ugh, that's
it's already out.
He's 23. He's 23.
Sure.
I mean, they were good-looking actors in 1984. They look fine.
What a diplomatic way of saying.
What do you think?
Weirdly, I think William Zabka is more attractive than Daniel now.
Oh yeah, sure. Now
I don't know. The years have been kinder to him. I think also I'm just like his character is so awful in this movie. It's hard. He's just. I don't know. He's got nothing going on.
He's an 80s bully.
He's an 80s bully. He's one note. But yeah, I think.
And like obviously, like definitely like if you go into Cobra Kai and into like also. It always helps. Like, aside from him, like, going on an emotional journey and being a different and older person, like, it always helps, like, when you see somebody as an underdog. Like,
yeah.
I mean, and I think that the creators of Cobra Kai were very, very intentional about this. Like, they didn't just make Daniel, like, happy. They made him rich and successful.
Like, 3 whole episodes of Johnny just getting kicked to the floor.
Just yeah, exactly. And so it's like, even though, like, yeah, I mean, that's why I think the character is consistent. It's just that you're seeing him at a really low point, you can't help it. You're just like, fuck. Like, you know, I mean, for all you know, before Daniel moved to California, he could have been like the biggest bully in Newark. Okay,
that's
no.
True.
That's
I mean, we never found out.
He knew karate, you know. I mean, like a little bit.
That he learned from a magazine.
He learned from a magazine. And also the Y, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, so... No, I just can't picture it. No. He's a nice kid.
What I'm interested in is... you see Johnny remember Allie so fondly, but like from this movie, there's just like she despises him. She's not even just like kind of lukewarm. She just does not like him.
Which is also, again, I was just sort of like, well, that's weird.
It makes it seem like Johnny has like, as far as he's come in the Cobra Kai series, he doesn't have any like moment of self-awareness where he's like, she kind of hated my guts, and it wasn't like Daniel stole her away, like. You know?
It was like...
Yeah, it was like an abusive...
it's like it did not seem like it ended on good terms.
But I will say, what I was surprised by is how much chemistry Ralph Macchio had with Elizabeth Shue. Like, their, like, date, I felt like it was very cute. And yeah, it is in high school, and so it's all meaningless. But to the extent that if we think Allie is coming back...
Oh, no. I mean, maybe. I think she's coming back, but, like, I don't think that... There's going to be a... Oh my god, do you think Ralph Macchio...
You gotta make your predictions now. Say them now so that we can validate in the future. I think they're not going to bring her back and not have some sort of romantic pull. I think the romantic pull, she'll find herself attracted to Johnny in a way that she never was, obviously, from this original movie, because I think...
She did date him for 2 years, so there must have been a moment in that
we never saw it.
Yeah,
we never saw it. I mean, she opens with basically shoving him away.
Yeah.
For most of the movie.
But yeah,
so
I can see that.
I mean, because again, I feel like I'm creating spoilers all over the place, but Daniel is happily married, and though we might see some cracks there, I don't know. Do you think there will be a love triangle?
No way.
I think the show pays so much attention and like so much reverence to all of these themes. They took kind of like a classic 80s movie, like underdog movie, and they made this very complex show, and so if they're gonna put all these callbacks into other relationships and mirroring that, wouldn't it be just perfect to have like the first movie is about Daniel and Allie's romance, and then have it 20 years later be about Johnny getting a second chance with Allie?
I could absolutely see that. Like, you know, Allie's marriage is on the rocks and Johnny's there and he's a new man. I thought you were saying that there might be like a bit of a Ralph Macchio Allie subplot. I just can't see that. His wife is cool, man.
I know, but I mean, nothing lasts forever. Nothing stays gold, and you know.
Profound. Did Miyagi say that?
I am Miyagi.
I am Miyagi.
I'm sorry, listeners. I'm sorry for this.
Yeah, you put up with so much, listeners.
Yes. Final thoughts and/or favorite Miyagi quotes. Any of them.
Favorite Miyagi quotes. Let me think for a second.
Wait, I've got my favorite Miyagi Daniel exchange.
What is it?
Okay.
What is it?
Daniel says, "You're the best friend I've ever had," and Miyagi says, "You're pretty okay too."
Oh, that is so good.
Miyagi negs the fuck out of Daniel.
Oh, he's so good at negging Daniel.
He's just like, okay, you love me? Thanks, I guess. It's perfect. It's like, it's heartfelt, and it's like, Miyagi is like, I care about you, but I've also seen a lot of shit, and you're just like a random teen.
Yeah, kid. I adopt like Italian
I gave you a bonsai.
It's
not a wedding ring, you know. Relax.
I like when this is like a little moment where like Daniel's like, I never thought I'd make it this far in this tournament, and Miyagi's like, that makes two of us.
I know. Yeah.
It's
true. Okay.
I don't even... Do we rate this? Can we rate canon like this?
I don't
source
think
document?
so. I think we should leave it unrated. This is
Yeah.
not just a capsule episode.
No.
But I just feel like so much more empowered to go into season 2.
Yeah, I'm ready for this.
And maybe, listeners, we'll even cut Ralph Macchio some slack and give Daniel a little credit for being...
Right. We'll stop...
He had spent all season basically obsessed with Miyagi, and now we kind of get it. We're kind of obsessed with Miyagi.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. We're going to be less asshole-ish about Daniel than we usually are. Yeah. We are going to be, shall I say it, ex-degenerates instead of ace-degenerates.
Yes.
Oh, and that's actually another thing. Sorry, this episode is supposed to be wrapping up, but one last thing. Very beginning of the movie, when Johnny Lawrence makes his very first appearance, like, he turns down, like, some alcohol his friend's offering him, and, like, his friend is like, well, you're still the ace degenerate, and he's like, no, I'm the ex degenerate. I got a whole year to, like, make my life right.
Oh, wow.
Do you remember that? Like,
yeah. And then it was so brief.
It was so brief. It was never followed up on. It was just,
what I find interesting is I feel like when they wrote the script, they didn't really know what they're doing, and they kind of, like, focused. They did a great job with the Miyagi-Daniel relationship, but they kind of, like, everything else was kind of a throwaway. And then the show creators just, like, rewatched it and, like, were like, okay, it's kind of like a soap opera. You gotta make some shit work. You drop enough hints, and you can repurpose them later. So, yeah.
And, like, the first episode of Cobra Kai is called Ace Degenerate, right? And I was just like, that's such an interesting thing for, like, your 80s bully to say, but it's just,
he thought he was gonna, like, start again with Allie and make his life anew and, like, maybe even leave Kreese behind. But then Daniel came by and...
just Danieled it up.
Yeah. We also see the origins of the famous headband that Daniel wears and Miyagi gives to him.
Miyagi used it to sop up his blood.
Yes.
And, later just said, nah, you don't have to give it back, kid. So I don't know if it was gifting it to him so much as,
Yeah.
It was just gross at that point. But I almost feel like instead of ending this episode in our traditional way, we should end it with a Miyagiism.
Okay.
What do you got?
Oh, man. I'm fighting for life, not for points. I knocked something over. What do you got?
Different, but same.
Oh, God. Actually, what is that in reference to, though? Are you still talking about Allie and...
I'm talking about us, you emotional clod.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess.
Sure. All right, I'll start. Different,
but same.
All right. All right now.